Hey all, Grolo here. I wanted to do a fast follow-up to the video that I put out just 2 days ago that was talking about the evolving medical gameplay in Star Citizen, because shortly after that video put out, C.I.G released some more information that outdated a lot of the information in that video. As I said in that video, the place we were starting with kind of the new medical systems in 4.3.1 was simple. They were talking about static wound recovery costs and respawn fees and all that stuff. And I said, that's okay, because the nice thing about numbers is they are easy to change, right? And C.I.G proved that correct, because they've already iterated on the numbers. And they could continue to iterate on these more before we see 4.3.1 in our hands. But the way they've changed it for now is they've done a few things. They've increased how much MedGel a container holds. It used to hold 100, now they hold 200. In addition to that, they have maintained the cost of the container, so you're paying the same amount. It's still 100,000 AUEC per container. Now the respawn fee, or the amount of MedGel consumed for a respawn, remains the same. And so since you're getting twice the MedGel for the same price, that effectively halves the cost of respawning. On top of that, the wound healing was a flat cost of 50 MedGel per wound. They have reduced that and made that variable based on the tier of your injury. So a tier 1 injury will only consume 20 MedGel now, tier 2 will consume 10, and tier 3 will consume 5. Effectively making the costs of those wound treatments like 10,000, 5,000, and 2,500 AUEC. And effectively the cost of respawning will now be 50,000 AUEC, while before it was 100,000, so they've halved that. Now, keep in mind that respawning on a station or a planet is still free, so this is a convenience fee. We're going to talk about that more in a little bit. So this is a good positive change in my view. Like, I thought that the initial implementation was too simple. This adds some more depth and some more variability to it, and I think this is a better starting place than what they were talking about before. So A+, +1, thumbs up from me. Now, why are people upset about this? Some of you in the comments referenced kind of the ongoing passionate discourse on Spectrum, Reddit, etc., that we often see around changes like this. And you rightly pointed out that people are going to be upset and enraged even when 1.0 lands. There is no change or system or anything that C.I.G can debut that is not going to upset a group of people. So whatever, signal to noise ratio there, just do your best to tune it out. Now, I was critical of medbed respawns to begin with. When the NERSA launched, I was pretty annoyed about the changes that came into the game as part of that allowed us to respawn on our beds. I said this was going to cheapen the experience. I was even more annoyed and spoke out about tier 0 item recovery and the fact that we're now respawning with all of our equipment except what was in our backpack. Again, it's a move towards even more cheapening, in my opinion. And this passionate discourse that we're seeing now is why I was speaking out about these types of changes, because it's really difficult to take convenience away from players once they have it, and that is showing now in these conversations. If you go back 3 months, I did a video, it was titled, What Can Be Learned from Those Who Have Come Before? And in that video, we watched and discussed a talk that was given by the game director of World of Warcraft. And he specifically addressed this issue, that over the years, as WoW dripped more and more convenience, more and more quality of life improvements, more and more this, more and more that, the experience of playing the game began to degrade, because players will want things that remove friction from the game even when removing that friction will end up ruining the game. So, as players, we're really not great judges of what friction should be removed, because again, this came up during the Hot Buttons and MMO series too, with one of our guests who said, players will remove all the friction from a game until you just have this smooth round ball. And I could not agree more. I thought that was very well said. And this, in my mind, this is an example of that. And so, from where I stand and from my perspective, these changes that MedGel and paying for the convenience of respawns and so forth, and eventually Tier 1 and Tier 2 item recovery, like these changes cannot come into the game soon enough. It's only going to get more difficult in time to remove the convenience that players have today. Like the longer we let that go on, the more and louder the outcry will get and whatever. So I think this was a win that we're seeing some of these changes and evolutions to these systems already, because I think the current system sucks. I do. I hate the fact that I can just respawn until I win. I think it cheapens the experience for me. It removes any amount of challenge that may have existed in the game. I'm not saying there's a ton, but it's just, and some of the argument that I hear is like, yeah, but the game's full of bugs, right? Like at any moment, like some game-breaking bug could happen, and I'm killed at no fault of my own, and they use this to counter the logic that we should see some of these systems coming online right now, and those arguments do not persuade me. Like, I play the game, I see the bugs, like, I think there's a little stretching of reality in these arguments. Like I don't know about you, but like I'm not running into game-breaking, I just died bugs on every mission that I'm doing. I'm not saying I don't encounter them occasionally, I do, but they're not setting me back on every single mission or event that I'm participating in. I think over time they've been happening less and less. The experience has gotten better. Now, there are some types of events and missions out there that are worse than others, and if that bothers you, I would just say avoid those until C.I.G comes along and improves them to the point where you are willing to tolerate these systems in conjunction with those events. So that's where I stand on this issue. I think, limiting our ability to kind of throw ourselves at any challenge in the game is a good thing. It's going to bring more logistics, planning, and all of those things that the systems they've been bringing online over the past months and years, it allows those systems to shine and fulfill, right? Like the fact that I now have to think about the cost of respawns and how much I want to be able to do that and load my ship accordingly. Yes, you're going to run into a bug that makes that an annoying experience, but that's going to be true for any system in the game. We're playing an alpha game here. Like anything you go to do, you could run into a game-breaking issue that annoys you and ruins the entire experience. The fact that some medical gameplay systems are coming online doesn't change that. That could happen with any system that they bring online, so that's not a good argument in my mind. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know some of you are going to be diametrically opposed to this viewpoint. As always, I welcome good debate. I welcome those perspectives and opinions in the comments, so here's your chance. Fire back. Now, as an aside, I've heard that there is an issue right now where respawning is per bed and not per ship. Now that I think is not a great thing. Apparently, if you have like a Cuddy Red or attack or anything with multiple beds in it, when you bind yourself, you are binding yourself to a bed, and each bed has its own MedGel fuel source. And so if the bed that you're bound to runs out of MedGel, that limits your ability, like that prohibits you from respawning, even though the ship or the med bed right next to it may have enough MedGel. That seems like a huge oversight to me, and a departure from how every other respawn location in the game works. Like when I set my respawn to Microtech, or I set it to Bajini Point, like I'm not setting it to a bed, I set it to a location. And I'm sure there's a good technical reason for this, but it seems like a strange departure that when setting my respawn to a ship, it would be to a bed and not to the ship. Now, there is some wrinkles there, I'm aware, like the stations and planets and those things, they don't have the MedGel system, so this may be specifically an issue related to the MedGel capabilities and fueling of beds and not being able to decouple that from the location. So it'll be interesting to see how soon that's fixed. I think that should be fixed in pretty short order. I would love to know what the priority behind the scenes with C.I.G is, but that is definitely something I would like to see change sooner than later. And while we're on the topic of things upsetting people, another thing I just heard that has flared a few tempers is that Hurston is getting a weapon shop. Is this true? I think this is cool. I understand people that are not happy about this are not happy about it because of the lore of Hurston, or Lorville in particular. I don't know if it's the whole planet or just Lorville, but anyway, I would say to that, I would say, look, like we can have lore without game impacting restrictions. Like in my mind, if they wanted to do, like, I would imagine the reason for this is that nobody is setting their home to Hurston or Lorville because of the annoyance about kind of equipping and buying ammo and all that stuff whenever, you know, you come in shortly after a patch or whatever. Keep in mind that like C.I.G has the data, you don't. Like, we don't know how many people are opting to spawn on Hurston versus elsewhere, so a change like this might just be an attempt to, you know, spread the player base out some, which could benefit their static meshing and that type of thing. So there could be a very good reason for this. And I think that restricting players from buying weapons on Hurston is not the only way to back up that lore. Like if I went to a Hurston shop to buy my ammo or whatever, and the person behind the counter was yelling, hey, do you have your permit for that or whatever? Like, in my mind, that would support the lore. I don't need restricted to support lore. Having a ton of guards outside, making sure that everybody has their permits, that type of thing. There's a bunch of ways of accommodating lore without impacting gameplay. Although I am a proponent of gameplay supporting lore. Generally, like in this case, it just seems like a no-brainer to me. So anyway, that's all I have for today. I wanted to do a quick follow-up on the medical stuff in particular, give my thoughts and opinions on what is currently, I guess, a hot topic. I can't wait for these changes to be in the game. I can't wait for convenience taxes. I think it's only going to improve the feel of the game. Keep in mind, like, yes, we are testing an alpha game. Yes, there are game-breaking bugs, but we're not only here, in my mind at least, to test the functionality of system. Like, if that was our only purpose in playing Star Citizen today, was to test the functionality of systems, then I might give more credibility to the argument, like, bringing a MedGel system online and introducing convenience taxes, like this, it's not the right time. I would give more credit to that argument if that was our only purpose here. But in my mind, we are also here to test the feel of the game, right? To make sure that it feels good to play. Like, there's more and more all the time with these events and all the stuff that need us making sure that things feel good to engage in, and having to be aware of how much of a limited resource that we are consuming, and the MedGel and the respawns and all that stuff. That's part of the way a game feels, and so I think it's very important to start exercising that and putting it through its paces now. You know, love to hear your thoughts. Continue this conversation with you all in the comments below. Until then, Grolo out.